What's up, y'all?
Hey,
Hi.
hi.
So, Kim, we've known each other for a long time. We met. We're both writers, and you had a class at UCLA which was called Answering the Muse, and I was like 19 at the time, kind of soul searching, figuring out who I was, my sexual identity, as well as my just who I was in general. And you were so comforting. I immediately trusted you. And it wasn't just that, it was that, to this day, you were one of the best teachers I ever had because it felt like you were talking to each individual person um, and relating to us in a way that went beyond kind of the strict uh, cogs that we encounter whenever we have teachers in grade school or
Mhm.
throughout our lives. A big reoccurring theme that I've had on this um, journey, like talking to other writers and artists, is just how much our school system kind of fails us.
Hmm. How do you believe it
So
fails us?
yeah, what? Well, um, I guess I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and he said that he doesn't read for enjoyment,
Hmm.
and I knew that it was because we're kind of taught to not really enjoy reading when we're kids because it's so stressful. You have to read, Jane Eyre within 2 week time frame, and it's. I think we associate
Hmm.
like things that are enjoyable, like learning or reading, with really stressful associations.
That's interesting because
I don't know. What
I
do you
was
think?
thinking about that today. I always think about that, but I was thinking about that today in relation to trying to put up a writing exercise on my Instagram and my Patreon as well. But I was thinking about how people always think it's supposed to be like a arduous and sort of unpleasant slog learning how like I, I'm always trying to convince people to just follow their instincts. It's not that there isn't a place for discipline. There is a place for discipline, obviously, and sometimes in writing you have to maybe do something you're not super excited about, but oftentimes it's a matter of following your bliss, and that leads to something very cool and very organic for you. And people think, oh God, I have to, you know, the one student said, I hate describing settings, but I need to learn how to do that, right? And I was like, do you like the kind of story that describes setting? And he's like, no. I was like, well, then forget it, Like, don't write that kind of stuff. You don't like that. What do you like? He liked character. Okay, that's your thing. So it's amazing to me that
Hmm.
people don't really get that they can follow their instincts, their bliss. Things can be more organic, especially in creativity,
Yeah,
right?
Mm.
I mean, don't you think?
totally. I think it says something that it was refreshing for me. I think it's always going to be a refreshing message, but that it's you are a rare bird that you're teaching people to follow their bliss
Really?
in creative endeavors.
Really?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
yeah, you.
Huh.
When I went to design
It's unique.
school,
Yeah.
yeah, I went to design school for interior design, and we never got that. It was like they never let us
Really?
really be free. There was a very strict, yeah, no, very rarely. There were a few professors that were similar to you and really wanted us to kind of just throw ourselves into it and give our all with it. But most of the time with like the design world, especially with our education, we didn't really get that opportunity too much. So that's pretty rare with creative, I think, teaching.
I mean, I understand you have to learn a lot of technical things. If you're a dentist or something, I'd sure want you to know your stuff when it comes to the teeth and the painkillers and the thing because I don't really want you drilling into my brain. But we're not talking about like teeth and brains. We're talking about design or story or something that's very, very fluid and malleable. So what there's no science to it. It's it's free. So I don't get it really why you wouldn't have the freedom in
Yeah.
design school. You may come up with a
Yeah.
new way to
Yeah.
design.
The thing is, they're especially with design school, they're pumping us out to go into the field. We're an army. They're building an army to go and to become interior designers at the biggest firms, the smallest firms, wherever. They look at us as like these, cogs in the machine just to help keep the industry going, keep architecture going, whatever. So it's
Okay.
not all programs are like that, but my program was like that up until our thesis project. They let us go crazy, but leading up to
Okay.
that, it was a little limiting with what we can do.
Did you find when you got to your thesis project
I
that it
would
was difficult for you to go crazy because you've been trained out of going crazy?
No, no, it was so easy because I was craving it. You're craving to
Okay.
go crazy when you're locked up
Okay.
like that. You want to just throw yourself into a project. Yeah, that was easy for me. That was my best project in
Okay.
school, my thesis.
I bet.
Yeah,
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
It sounds like their metric of success was based off of where they sent you guys to.
yeah,
I
yeah,
wonder,
yeah, definitely. They
right?
use that as like their credentials. Oh, Brandon went to so and so firm. Da 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 da. And that's what they got on. They got off on that kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
Really.
Yeah.
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 It's like the French painting school that Van Gogh, I guess they were trying to teach him how to draw. Here's the method for drawing and painting and all that. And he wanted to do things his way. So he quit the French painting school and went out in fields of sunflowers and did it his way. And of course, therefore, he didn't join the firm and didn't sell a painting. But we now
Mm-hmm.
think of him as being this original voice and vision. And I was just at a couple of weeks ago, I was just at a big Van Gogh show in Detroit and it was fantastic. So I don't know. I guess my values are that you do your thing, and maybe therefore you're not understood in your time, but I feel like you know yourself in a way that other people don't know themselves. I feel like Mark,
Something really interests me
yeah.
about what's
I,
up?
I just feel like,
Something really interests me about
yeah.
something really interests me about what you said, which is that the notion of Van Gogh, right? And we hear about him doing his own thing, and we kind of like look at it in as like kind of a lesson. But I think that what I am realizing now that I'm getting older and kind of more interested, or I've always been interested in doing my own thing, but how much punishment or kind of negative interactions Van Gogh probably went through in as the cost of doing his own thing. Like it's not as if it's easy to do your own thing because we don't realize it, but Van Gogh was in a world where everybody was probably telling him like, "You're a shitty
Yep.
artist," or "You're a shitty X," whatever you're doing in your field. And for whatever reason, that mystery motivator, it was propelling him to do it
Mm-hmm.
anyways. And I noticed that in my life now, specifically in video
Mm-hmm.
games, where there's this very clear metric of skill or performance. And when you choose to not uh, follow the meta, as they call it, or follow the rule, that
Mm-hmm.
metric, then the game will give you a score which is much lower than what your true ability is, right? And so it gives you this idea like, oh, I am a C grade, like I have a C
Yeah.
grade, so I'm not very smart, in this game. But really, the skill, you're just doing a different metric, and Van Gogh was doing a totally different metric than everybody else.
So you're just playing
Does that
video
make
games
sense?
creatively, is what you're saying, and they punish you for playing creatively.
Yeah, and I think that that is what happens in the art world or in architecture or in anything where, maybe let's say you're doing a different thing on social media or on YouTube, and if it's so different from what everybody else is doing, you're going to be punished based off of our kind of the way that we see it, where you'll get less views maybe, or you will get more
Mm-hmm.
dislikes. And if you go based off of the metrics of society, you will never be a trailblazer like Van Gogh or something of that sort.
Yeah. I guess it depends on where the reward comes from. You said the motivate. I think the word you used motivation. Where the reward comes from. If it's coming, if it's from the
Mhm.
inside, I think you could sustain the slings and arrows coming at you maybe from the outside. But if it's coming from the outside, there's just no chance. You will start to try to please, like the metric coming from outside. Yeah, it's hard. That's very difficult.
And you have to find
Mhm.
like a equal point because you don't want to go too far, like where you're trying so hard to be different or like obscure, because then that feels, it's not authentic. So like
Then you're reacting. Then you're just reacting to the other thing.
Right.
yeah.
But that's kind of what's interesting for me is like, what is your motivator? And then maybe staying true to that motivation rather than the kind of, I don't know.
It's a fun journey to
It's a
get there
mystery.
too. That's exciting to
Hmm.
discover, like how you want to express yourself to your purest extent. That's amazing.
Right. If
Hmm.
you're if you're it's like
Totally.
you said, you're just reacting. If you're just reacting, you're just a contrarian. They're still your boss. You're just doing the opposite
Mm-hmm.
of what they want. They're still
Hmm.
bossing you. So you're not. It's not authentic coming from you. If that's what's motivating you is just upturn turn upturning the apple cart. You're still not listening to the
Hmm.
inside. So yeah, I agree completely with that, Brandon. Huh.
Do you feel like you're at a point with your writing where you don't need to fight with yourself in that way? Like, do you feel like you're at a comfortable point with yourself in writing where you could kind of start writing and you're in your free world, or do you have like an internal fight monologue going on in your head, like figuring out which direction to go in?
I feel pretty free when I'm working on when I'm really deep into something. It feels really good and it feels really egoless. It's like it's deeper than ego, and um, it feels free. What is difficult is to take it out and show people, because and then you have to deal with other people's opinions, and there's always the question of whether you're clear and they understand what you were going for. But being in it feels really good to me. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that's what I was curious about. Yeah, I was curious if it was just a comfortable experience to write, because I'd imagine for some people it might be like a little bit of a struggle.
Yeah. Well, I guess
Yeah.
because
I loved that it's deeper than ego.
said that again.
I loved that you said it's deeper than ego. It looks like there's a kind of an echo going on.
Yeah.
Do you guys hear that
Yeah, I hear
echo?
a little bit of an echo.
Oh, I don't have my freaking headphones on.
Might be, yeah.
I will BRB, or I'm gonna put
All
those
right,
on
we'll
real
take a
quick.
quick break.
You got it.
Yep.
Okay, so what were we talking about?
We're
I can't even
talking
remember.
about Van Gogh and about going deeper. Okay, going deeper than your ego.
Yeah.
All right.
So just to publicize your Patreon page because it actually is connected. You're teaching writing on Patreon, right?
Yeah, I have a creative writing sort of, I mean, I don't know if class is the right word, but I'm posting videos on creative writing, screenwriting, and creativity on Patreon, and my little little show is called The Magic Hour with Kim Krizan. So I've been posting for over a year, about at least one a week, And I've posted quite a number of the exercises we did, Marston, in the UCLA
Mm-hmm.
class. So you've seen a bunch of them. And
Mm-hmm.
Marston has actually been on the show. So you should be
Nice.
on the show
I'm
Yeah,
gonna have to
again.
watch that.
Yeah, you should be on the show again.
I'd
Oh,
love to.
I'd love to have you again because he did he did a couple different exercises with me that are really good. So
What was Marston like as a
Yeah.
student?
Marston, here I am, and Marston sat on far end stage left, let's call it. And I remember his hair was like around this long, and I remember some of the things he said. He was working. He did some sci-fi. I remember you're working on some sci-fi, and I remember that you contributed to the discussions. I remember one thing you said is that what really helped you, what freed you up with your writing, is the feeling of being comfortable and relaxed, so that you could, unspool. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um, he was
I
a good
remember.
presence.
Yeah,
I bet.
I remember. Yeah, I remember you encouraged us to. There are a lot of things that stuck with me when I took your class. One of them was a fear to write is being scared to
Mm-hmm.
fail. And if you're not afraid to fail, then you can write. Another one is you encouraged free association. Um, and I remember, like, as a writing routine for many years, like as an undergraduate, and I would, like, my main writing exercise was sitting down for an hour and just like writing, irrational free association stuff. And I think like all of that kind of right brained, or
Mm-hmm.
just giving us the freedom to do whatever we wanted with however we felt, was like, that was a big part of why writing stuck with me,
Mm.
and I still do it to this day. And
The
yeah.
freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because I find that people often come in the class and they're coming from one direction or the other. They're either coming from over control and they need to be freed up, or they're coming from a lack of discipline
Mm-hmm.
and they need to be controlled a little bit. So I try to find the perfect balance. It's a
Mm-hmm.
little difficult because people are coming from different situations, but I try to find the perfect balance. And I think it's really about the two sides of the brain. Like the right brain that you're talking about is the child
Mm-hmm.
brain, the free brain, and the left brain
Mm-hmm.
is the disciplined, super controlled part of the brain. So I find if you
Mm-hmm.
can kind of stand in the middle and balance the two, then you can get some work done. you know?
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you get? Is it hard to teach writing? To like, were the people in your classes like already writing, or was it kind of entry at UCLA?
They were totally different places. Some
Okay.
people were experienced, and some people were inexperienced, and everything in between. So the exercises really worked for everybody because I made them up, the exercises. So they hadn't seen them. People generally hadn't seen the exercises before. So aside from maybe like stream of consciousness
Wow.
writing, which a lot of people have tried at some point, but not everybody. The other exercises, the ones that we've done, Marston, animals and the movie theme and all that kind of stuff, those all no one had seen before because I made it up.
Hmm.
Yeah.
What was really
That's a very
interesting?
personal and revealing
They're
exercise.
revealing.
What?
What's really interesting is I had a
Mm-hmm.
lot of AA people Um, and NA and a lot of those people in my classes, a lot of them. And they were really fun. They're really like, they're super expressive people. And I kind of wonder if it's because they often go to meetings where they have to get up and express their truths, because they were just like, just ready for it, and they were fun and emotional, and it was just it was an interesting pattern that I saw in so many of my creative writing classes.
That makes sense.
Yeah, they're like professional storytellers in a way.
God,
Every day or every time they go up.
yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. And they're honest storytellers,
Mm-hmm.
because that's the thing with AA, right? Or NA, or
Mm-hmm.
codependent and anonymous, or
Yeah.
whatever. You're supposed to go tell your truth to a room full of people. So I think the muscle got strong.
Mm.
But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, they were
Do you
a
think some people are? Do you think some people are like more, you know, they have more of an easier path to becoming like a great writer than others? Do you think there's like some sort of personality build or emotional build to it?
I would guess. I think that I would guess that some people are just more inclined to expressing emotion. Um, I don't know if you guys have ever done the Myers Briggs, but the Myers Briggs is
Yeah.
based on Jungian psychology. And apparently, we are born with inclinations. Like, you're either introverted or extroverted. You're either intuitive or you're more of a sensory kind of person. You're either a feeler, a thinker. Of course, these are generalizations. And you're either disciplined or very go with the flow. And I would say that all the types can probably write. I'm sure of it. But some types
Mm-hmm.
feel a lot of pleasure writing, and they might be the more intuitive types. I would guess the feeling types, maybe the introverted types as well. Um, they
Hmm.
just feel sheer pleasure in going deep inside. Maybe they're also the ones that ended up in the AA stuff, because maybe substances, were a particularly fun for them, or particularly tempting for them, or I don't know, but seems like a lot of them ended up
Mm-hmm.
in my classes.
It's an interesting
I
pattern.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it,
How
it
do you
really
both?
was.
I'm curious how you both judge. How do you judge what's great writing and what's not great writing? Like when, because I'm not much of a writer. I write a little bit. Marston kind of got me into it, but
Mm-hmm.
I never understood what it means to be like what's great art, what's great writing, what's great this, that, and the other, because it's all relative, I think. So,
I
but
agree.
I'm curious as like a professor, like how do you push a student in a certain direction to help them maybe become even better than they are?
Well, I'm kind of upfront immediately, just in saying that it's totally subjective, and that
Mm-hmm.
I may have different taste than some of my students. So I really don't believe that, in great art, or, this is terrible and this is fantastic. I don't really believe that. All I can judge things on is, does the student do their homework? I just want them to produce stuff. And I tell them up front, I'm not going to tell you it's good or bad. I just want you to turn in stuff, because that's,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? Just turn in stuff. And then,
Yeah.
right? Just do stuff. And then
Mm-hmm.
the way I personally would do it is what makes me feel. And like, I can feel almost a physical sensation if something, if it really touches me. I almost levitate out of my seat, or I just feel a physical, like, explosion kind of feeling. I'm like, damn,
Mm-hmm.
that made me feel something. So, but that's just my judgment. It doesn't mean there's no objective answer. Like this is great, this is terrible. There's no answer to that.
Hmm.
Do you feel like that, Marston?
Hmm.
It's such a mystery. Um, I feel like there are good writers. I kind of agree with Stephen King on this one, where um, an okay writer can become a good writer. You can never become one of the greats. I don't know if I agree with that one, but basically, there are some people who are so bad at it that I don't think that they can improve. And I think a lot of times people fit themselves into, they go after hobbies that maybe they're not very good at, or careers that they're not very good at. And, you know, that they would probably be better suited at doing something else. I think that applies to every vocation or whatever.
What if they just get pleasure out of it though? Like what if somebody
Yeah, then do
what if
it.
someone's a terrible dancer? I mean, like there's let's say they're objectively klutzy or something, but they just get so much pleasure dancing. I
Hmm.
mean,
Yeah, I mean that's the whole point of life, right?
yeah,
Is like to enjoy, or to be, at least for me, to be happy. If it brings me happiness, and keep doing it.
yeah,
Hmm.
Yeah.
yeah.
But you think that there could be, you could do it for pleasure, but you're not good at it. Is that the kind of like your perspective you take though? Like if they publish it, let's say.
That's my perspective on it, but
Okay.
my feeling is that most people, or it's not even most people, like, I don't know. It's hard. I'm coming at it from maybe a more competitive mindset, where I play video games, I play sports, I also write. There are clear differences, like in someone who can shoot a basketball into the hoop 2 out of 2 times, and somebody who can, like, 0 out of 2 times,
Hmm.
But like, I don't know, who cares? Like, are we don't write in order to, I don't know. I kind of enjoy writing because I feel like I'm good at it. And I think most people maybe wouldn't write if they thought that they were bad at it.
Uh-huh.
But I don't know. That's just my opinion, right? Like Kim said, where it's all subjective.
Hmm.
What if it's like a therapeutic exercise to express oneself in writing, but nobody else is touched by it? I mean, the person should keep doing it, right? Sorry, my cat. This is Lulu. The person should keep doing it because they're getting something out of it. But I don't know. Should they not show it to
Hmm.
anybody? Should someone tell them it's not? Sorry, I don't know how to get this to stop. Damn it. Uh,
It's a cute cat.
thank you, Lulu. Oh, come on.
Oh my gosh. She's
Hey,
very
baby.
vocal. Or he.
She.
Cute.
I think this is just my ego, guys. I got to be honest. I'm like a 32-year-old guy
Okay.
who's like trying to be like, I'm better. Like, I want to feel a certain place on the totem pole. Who, like,
Yeah.
don't listen to this stuff. Who
It's
cares?
valid though. I think that's okay though
Yeah,
to
it
feel that way.
is. It is.
Yeah, but I think the goal, like, if I had no ego, if I had no skin in the game, then obviously, which I don't, who cares?
I
How do you
think
do
you.
competitive? When you say competitive, how do you do competitive writing? What does that mean to you?
I'm really good at it, and I understand I'm really good at it. I can feel it, when I can feel the tools that I'm using, and that's what gets me off, is like,
Hmm.
just like figuring out this puzzle in my head. That's what gets me off about it.
So you're competing with yourself,
Um,
or is it like an internal
I just like
competition?
feeling like a level of, sorry.
Mastery.
I like feeling a level of
Yeah.
mastery.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
Do you feel like you see your competitors when you're writing? Do you sense them like ghostly presence in the room, like you're going to vanquish them? You've got
No.
to. spear and you're going to vanquish them with words?
No,
No.
no.
Hmm, interesting.
What do you?
Do you ever have like
I just write. I just find it very pleasurable, but it wasn't always pleasurable. When I came to your class, it was like a painful, but in like a calling. I couldn't help but not do it, and that's changed over time.
Well, because when you came to the classroom,
But what about you? Do you enjoy it?
me,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, well, I feel okay. I feel like I'm putting order. Yeah, I feel like I'm solving problems and put taking feelings and giving them order. And um, sometimes, like, I'm taking great frustrations with life and the world and people and reality, and I'm solving those for myself. Just, do you know what I mean? By telling
Yeah.
a story
Mhm.
that somehow, where like a character solves it and wins and vanquishes the enemy or something like that.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love that.
Hmm.
Yeah, totally. It's like for me, it's like I'm solving a puzzle, and it's just a very rewarding experience to do a Rubik's cube and then have the Rubik's cube at the end and go, yes, I did it.
Hmm.
And I also really like the notion of the character winning at the end, because this is such an this world that we live in is tends to be emotionally unintelligent in many ways, and I find writing to be an excellent way of saying, here's a different option where whatever you're feeling is like going to do well in this world.
Ah, you're gonna win.
Hmm.
So what are you
Do
winning?
outside
I think for me, it's emotional intelligence and
hmm.
mental health. And so promoting healthier ways of communicating, or healthier ways specifically with
Mm,
masculinity, um, being able to communicate feelings, or even just being a happy, living in a happy world and being happy
mm-hmm,
yourself. Like those are things that I want people to feel more of.
mm-hmm.
Do you feel like outside influences, like stuff that's happening in the world, do you fight? Like, how do you keep your mind on track when writing? Does it influence your writing in any way, or do you try to like shut it out?
Is this Kim or me?
Both of you guys, yeah.
It's like a respite. It's
What do
like
you
an
think?
oasis away from worrying and being upset about the stuff going on in the world. It's a place where I can create order and I can create meaning,
Hmm.
because sometimes out in the world just seems like pure chaos and injustice and all that. So it feels like I rule that little mental kingdom or something like that.
When when I read you came out with a Spy in the House of Nin, and Kim, I'm telling the audience this, but Kim's like a very big Anais Nin fan, and she'd worked with her estate. And in those essays, it was such a wonderful relief to read them, because there was a level of mastery of just the standard essay form, and yet with such feeling emanating from it, that it was like what my high school student heart wanted to write for my teachers, but never got good enough at that um, medium to do.
Was it because
Is that something that you think about?
I was reacting personally to her writing?
Well, it wasn't sentimental though. It
Mm,
was so full of emotion, precisely because
mm.
you really understood the rules of the essay. That's how it felt to me.
What were the rules?
It wasn't. Hmm, I don't know. Maybe just I'm not sure.
Huh. What was it that you felt my passion for the subject?
Yeah, for
Okay.
sure.
Okay. Well, because I did in writing about Anais Nin, I felt like I was defending. I'm afraid to use that word because I don't want to seem like defending. Is that the right word? Analyzing. I felt like I could feel. I could hear the critical voices against her, and I was fed up with them because it's all about her sex life, and that made me
Hmm.
mad. I just think it's so goddamn stupid to criticize this woman about her sex life. I thought that was dumb. So I was just trying to understand
Hmm.
it and explain it, I guess. Is that what you felt?
I didn't feel like. Well, there's one essay where you were explicitly defending against like this kind of new feminist, like trying to
Mm-hmm.
cancel on Easton or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But for the other ones, it felt like you were just genuinely like you really loved Anna Easton. You loved her work, and you were going to analyze it.
Mm.
It didn't feel to me like a reaction or a
Okay,
defense.
good.
Was
Good.
was there anyone that ever gave like feedback that like it was wrong what you were doing making this or
The book.
yeah.
Um, I think I did it in such privacy and secrecy that I wasn't really talking to many people about it. I probably mentioned it to almost nobody, so because that can really throw me off. Getting criticism can really throw me off. And so I often don't tell people what I'm doing. I show things to very few people. So I still remember every little bit of criticism I've had of my whole life. So,
Mm-hmm.
it sticks
Yeah.
with you. And,
Mm-hmm.
and then even if you have some victory, you're like, oh, 20 years ago, so and so told me that I did a bad job at such and such. And, it sticks
Mm.
with you. So it's hard the memory is
Mhm.
like, it's like it happened 5 minutes ago. So I try to I try to work in privacy so that I don't let all the steam out of it, you know?
Mm. I feel like I
Totally.
would always have the urge to share it with someone. I love sharing things with people, so like that would never work for me.
While you're
Do you,
working on
Marston?
things?
You're pretty private about your stuff. Yeah, I don't like sharing much. I mean, I like sharing a lot. Yeah, but like while I'm working on it, no. But like once I finish it, or like I'm almost finished, and I want to get someone's opinion before I cap it off. I love doing. I love just sharing it. Send it to all my friends and send like a design or a piece of writing to Marston and see what he thinks, kind of thing.
But that's after you're done,
But
pretty much.
I,
I really admire.
or like work in progress even too. Like I just love like seeing what people are thinking halfway through. But
Hmm.
I wonder if I committed fully through and didn't do that, if it would be different. What
Hmm.
would it look like? I don't know.
I don't know, dude. I really like. I feel like I'm the same way now, but I really like that you just like you send me a piece of writing or you send me something, and you're open to understanding why somebody likes it. And another really important part of that is you don't like get really sensitive when somebody doesn't like something that you've
Hmm.
done.
Hmm.
And I know personally, I wrote High School Romance, and Kim, you got like upset, or I got upset that you by your reaction to it, and it's like I'm overly sensitive when it comes to my art, and I like to think of it more now as like a math problem or something that oh somebody isn't resonating with this character, why aren't they resonating with the character? And then I can take it or leave it, and it's not like an attack on who I am.
Hmm.
I loved your book, and
It's
I think it's
funny.
genius, and I think it's truly marvelous. But I maybe yeah, I do think you're sensitive for sure. I think you're super sensitive. Yeah, but
It's okay.
Yes.
yeah,
You
I
protect
do
your
think you're
work.
sensitive.
You're very you
Yeah,
build a wall around it, and you're very, you know, into your thing, and you really put your all into it. To be sensitive about it makes sense, I think. You know.
Totally. I'm just saying that now I'm taking more of your perspective, which is like, why isn't someone responding to this? And it's like something that I can alter within the work rather than like take it as a personal.
yeah,
I guess maybe just detaching myself from the work is really all I'm saying,
yeah,
and it's enjoyable to
Yeah.
do
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Maybe the thing is you showed it before you like. I kind of feel like maybe when people are creative, they're creating something, they have no skin, and then after they finish it, that they start getting their skin or their armor back, and maybe
Hmm.
your armor hadn't come back yet or something. I just
Mhm.
know that the story about the I forget the title, baseball story.
Baseball.
I thought it was genius. I remember telling you I love that story, and I think it's genius. And I think I zeroed in so much on one story that that you're wondering about the rest of it. Well, what about the rest of it? But I think that
I
story
think you're right.
kind of made me levitate out of my seat. So I talked endlessly about that one, right?
That makes sense.
Yeah,
Totally.
yeah,
Um, Something that interests me and that Brendan's gonna say, Marston, this is a poor transition. Work on your transitions. But you were talking about 20 years ago in these like memories that come back 5 minutes later, and I find that happening with me. And there's a easy solution to it, which is that we just stay in the present moment the whole time, which is its own little interesting thing. I guess, what do you think about being in the past, and what is that? Sometimes I feel like I'm working out problems or figuring things out, and it doesn't feel all like I'm reliving trauma or something. But what's your opinion,
Oh, it's
Kim?
for me. Is that for me?
Yeah,
So
for all, yeah, for you,
I
but yeah.
guess the brain doesn't know time very well. I don't even know if in the universe time exists the way it does on Earth, like linear time. But in
Mm-hmm.
the human brain, a memory is if you have the memory, the brain doesn't know that happened 20 years ago. As far as the brain is concerned, if you're thinking it, it might be going on right this very second. So, it could be that if somebody says something that triggers that memory, that then we're back there in that experience that happened 20 years ago, and we're feeling the pain or the fear or whatever it is. And it's a survival thing. It's simply survival. Like, we know what hurt us or what impaired us. And so we don't want to go through that again. And so we're just trying to survive. And we go into, like, there's the fight, there's the flight, there's the freeze, there's another one now, fawn. There's a bunch of them. But I mean, if something triggers us and we go back into the memory, we think, oh, here I go again. I better, like, either I'm going to run out of the room or I'm going to put my dukes up and start fighting. And yeah, and you're right. I mean, the way through it is exactly what you said. Just breathe and try to stay in the moment. and look at the person maybe and go, did they really say that, am I really with my eighth grade teacher who's telling me I'm a piece of crap? No, I'm with my friend who had maybe used a word that the eighth grade teacher used, and now I'm like ready to fight or something. I mean, it has to do with the way the brain works, trying to keep us safe.
Yeah. I feel like that safety, like that overreaction is sometimes it's like you said, we're not reacting to what's in front of us. Somebody could upset us and it's not even real. We're living in our eighth grade mind and thinking that our teachers in front of us, or well, you actually are, but our parent or our girlfriend or our friend, and it's not. It's like what we're reacting to isn't real. I don't know. What do you think? What do you guys think?
I don't know.
Yeah, they're just
I
they're
tend to
just
not dwell on the past too much.
yeah, they're just touching that old memory. And
Hmm.
I mean, you guys are you're from the generation of communication. So you guys are particularly good, I think, at saying, okay, you just ignited an old memory of mine where my eighth grade teacher said I was a piece of crap because you used such and such a word, and now I'm quite upset. And uh, I mean, you guys are good at that, right? You're good at the.
I enjoy doing that.
Yeah, I think some are, some aren't. Depends who you interact with. Yeah,
Are you good at that, Brandon?
I don't know.
Brandon and I.
I don't know. I don't dwell in the past too much. Like, I don't get like, or whatever the word, triggered like by things. Like, I tend to like. I feel like I'm always moving in motion. I tend to be more focused on the future than the past or the present, and I'm always chasing something.
Hmm.
We talked about it recently, Morris and how we're always like we need something to chase. I finished this. I
Mm.
need to do this.
Hmm.
I bought this. All right, now
For
I
me,
need to
it's
buy
hope
this.
or enjoyment. Yeah.
It's
I
in
like
yeah.
thinking looking at the future is positive because things are usually getting better. Like as I get older, I'm getting happier.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, but the in terms of like handling things from the past, like and talking about it, it's more of an internal dialogue kind of thing. It's less of something like I would mention to Marston, like, oh, this, that, and the other, like from my past. Like, we do, but like, it's more of an internal conversation with myself. A lot of imagery
Hmm.
flashing. Like, if I think back to like a, crappy boss I had or whatever, I see a flash image of him, me.
Hmm.
It's like almost like a Getty photo or something. And
Hmm.
I kind of just look at it and then move to the next slide or just, you know, go back to reality.
Does thinking
I like that a lot. I like that a
does it
lot.
dissipate, like when you see the image of your crappy boss? Does seeing the image strengthen the bad memory, or does it help process the bad memory?
Helps process, definitely. And
Okay.
it's in the way that I describe it's just like a blip. It's just a blip. It appears and it goes, and it happens every once in a while. But I feel like you build up such thick skin over as you get older, and who I was 5 years ago is a thinner skinned person, and I feel like every time I see those blips, I get stronger and stronger, and I'm able to kind of process it and understand what it was more clearly. At
What's
least,
making you more thick-skinned now?
thick skin now. I think just I feel like I'm 20. I'm 26 years old, and I feel like I'm so close to 30, and I'm like, 30 scares me a little bit. No offense, guys, but like getting to 30 feels like this weird like hump. Like I'm like, oh my god. When I was younger, I thought 30 was like, man, you got it together. You're doing everything right, and I'm nearing there, and I'm like, I feel like I'm doing good, but there's room for improvement, and like kind of having that internal battle with myself over the past 5 years, I'm like, you build up this weird resilience, and like me deciding, oh, corporate life isn't for me. I'm going to quit my corporate job and start my own company. Like that transition of like being on your own and fighting and working hard and being demotivated, then motivated, then demotivated, and like this constant struggle of fighting with myself. You build up quite a resilience over time. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
26 is a tough one for
Yeah.
looking forward because 30 looms. It really does.
It's coming. It's coming. Yeah.
I don't miss being 20. I don't.
Mm-mm.
No.
But
Mm-mm.
I'm glad. I'm
What are
glad
the
that I'm
great
not 20
30s like?
anymore. The 30s, I don't know. Things are just better. I have a wife now, and so I have that like safety to come back to and say, "Hey, Anna, this happened to me today. What do you think?"
Mm-hmm.
And then I feel like I can take more risks because I have like a consistent partner. Um, but yeah, I don't know. What's it like being however old you are, 30, 34, is it, Kim? What's it like being 34 years old?
I'm millions of years old. You know that. I'm 61. So it things get better and better. I think that the I think if you take care of your health, that's the one thing. Is if you take care of your health, things get better and better. I mean, seriously, your life can be just infinitely better as you get older. Um, and things take turns that you're not expecting. You can think that you're done in some respects, and then things can get way better. But none of the like the terrible predictions, like the horrible commercials on television about like none of that stuff has this health problem that is if you take care of if you're just smart, you just take care of your health. Yeah, you're fine. Everything's good.
What
Things get
have you
better.
done to take care of your health? What do you do
Just it's
typically,
just the basic
or like
stuff.
over the years?
It's just basic stuff like just the lifestyle stuff that's a real pain, like diet, exercise, those simple things, getting enough sleep, not slamming
Mm-hmm.
yourself with a bunch of chemicals, and just those simple
Mm-hmm.
things will um you know keep you young for a long time and keep you healthy for a long time. There's no need. I mean, we just in our culture we just we have a bad lifestyle, and so we sit around too much and we eat
Hmm.
a bunch of crap, and we don't exercise. So we
Mm-hmm.
age and then everything goes to hell in a handbag. Your brain is one of the things goes to hell in a handbag, and your whole body. So if you just simply just counteract that, then you don't experience it. People in other cultures, they're like 95 years old, working their farms, and they look like people in our culture do at age 48. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a it's and I find that everything just gets better and better for me. I'm much
How
happier.
do you stay young? How do you stay young in the mind? Because I know of 61-year olds, or you know um, who are kind of really uptight. They'll never talk about like have a conversation that we're having right now, an easy banter. We go to you and I go to lunch like every month or so. How do you stay like flexible, open-minded, excited, curious? Like, yeah.
I think I'm an arrested development case, to be honest with you. I really feel like I didn't have the best childhood in the world, which something about Marston, and so for me, like adulthood is sort of like being in a candy store because I am now free to do what I want to do. And I'm always getting better at that. It's like a continual process of getting out of mental and emotional prisons for me. So life gets better and better. But I think maybe I'm naturally curious. I'm not, I don't think I know it all. So I think people have stuff to teach me, even 20-year-old students have stuff to teach me. You know, I respect them as human beings. I don't think I mean, I may have more experience in some respects than they do, but I think they have experience that's exclusive to them that they can teach me. So I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
maybe so it's maybe just having respect or something. But don't get me wrong. I mean, I have my times when I'm feeling pretty angry about the way the world's going, but then I just am like, this is not doing me any good to feel this way. I do not want to be some bitter old person. So let's restart, you know. And I think
What
I'm good
yeah.
at that.
What do you think
Mm-hmm.
of the younger generation? Whether they like the writers and just in general. What do you think of them? Like what's wrong, what's right?
Right now, the students I have in my classes are very sweet people. They're notably sweet. They're I don't know if it's because they've gone through a hell of a lot with this, the pandemic and all the political turmoil and all that, if it's clobbered them and made them incredibly respectful toward me and just sweet people. Um, that I really love. The thing I worry about is that they don't read like we read. I mean,
Hmm.
Are you a big reader, Brandon?
I'm not. No.
Well, the thing I worry about is reading books develops empathy, and I and it also. I mean, I worry about the vulnerability of people like believing things that are they're being victims of bad media and stuff like that. I worry about that. But
Mm-hmm.
I certainly don't think young people are stupid. I just think, God, I wish you guys read a little bit more because that will expand your horizons, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's the thing I'm concerned about. But
Hmm.
their behavior is notably good, and I don't want them. I just want them to read more. That's it.
Yeah. What do you think they're consuming if they're not reading? Because I feel like I consume a lot of like. Where do you see that your students are consuming their intake of knowledge of the world from if they're not reading books?
Now it's definitely TikTok and
Mm-hmm.
are they even on Twitter anymore?
I don't know.
Maybe.
They're on. Not really.
TikTok?
TikTok, Instagram's big. YouTube, obviously. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I wonder. Like, do you think in the future someone will be having a podcast and they'll be saying people aren't watching TikToks enough or like watching these YouTube videos enough and learning like because there'll be like a new form
Yeah.
as time goes on potentially,
Yeah.
and the old form or not old, but the traditional form is books. New media is TikTok, Instagram.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's just where we are right now, evolutionary wise.
Yeah.
This
Well,
is kind of the next progression.
it's definitely shortening our attention spans. I mean, mine is shorter. I used to have this monster attention span, and now it's shorter from being
Mm-hmm.
looking at the news and stuff with all the flickering images. It definitely shortens the attention span. That worries me a little bit because lizards have short attention spans, and so I do worry about that. Like a long attention span strengthens critical thinking skills and makes you less vulnerable to a lot of things that are probably dangerous. So I don't know. I know that my parents used to just blather on about like, you guys today watching your crappy television shows, your brains have gone to mush and all that. So I know what that is to have an older generation complaining endlessly that, we were inferior. I know what that is. So I don't want to do that to anybody. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. For me, like reading was like the greatest education. So, and travel, reading and travel. So,
I wonder what you're saying. It reminds me of. It reminds me of like you're we're talking about reading as if it's like not as enjoyable as TikTok. And I think that there's like a fundamental failure in our school systems that reading isn't seen as something like, oh, I want to like meditate with myself for an hour before bed and read some fucking Frankenstein. Like that's what it is. That's what Frankenstein is. Inherently, Frankenstein is very interesting and life changing, but like just people don't view it that
mhm.
way. And I don't think, yeah,
It's like being
Yeah, no, I
transported
get
into
that.
another world, which is probably why you
yeah.
Yeah.
guys
Like I
gaming.
fucking love reading the Silmarillion. Yeah, yeah. I love reading the Silmarillion at night. I have my little light and I get to read it before bed and I'm taken into this incredible world and it's very relaxing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I need to just kind of push myself to do it because I kind of fell into that, what you were saying, Marston, with the education system making reading something I dreaded instead of something that I could love.
What did they
Because,
force you to read?
Brandon, you didn't read. Oh, they'd be like, oh, read chapter 4 through, 10 of To Kill a Mockingbird and then write something about
Grades
it.
1 through 12.
And
Yeah, grades 1 through 12 and then
yeah,
college as
I'm
well.
like,
They all have required reading.
it was just, it was irritating to be forced to consume something that I didn't choose. I didn't choose to consume To Kill a Mockingbird. That was the assignment. And in my brain, I must have rewired it so I think books bad. Like
Yeah.
I've kind of rewired it because that's going to the past, the flash, the blip of my teacher, telling me you didn't do the assignment, you failed. Like,
Oh,
oh my god,
yeah.
bad memories with books. Yeah,
Yeah. Instead of pure unadulterated pleasure, the kind that Marston and I, we just, for us, it was
yeah,
like a trip, like a trip to read
Mm,
right?
mm.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, an
I
escape,
remember 11th grade Jonathan Safran Foer's Everything is Illuminated. It was, yeah, it was
mind
everything.
blowing. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Just being immersed in another world, being in the shoes of somebody and seeing things through their eyes is just like, I mean, it must be like gaming in a certain sense, right?
It totally is. And it's a very interesting connection.
Mm.
It's very similar in that gaming takes you to a very enjoyable place that's different from the mundane, and reading, like, is the exact same
Mm-hmm.
way. It's just a different form.
Yeah. We need,
Alrighty. I really have to go to the bathroom. So, shall we end? Shall we call it there?
Yeah, sure. This was great, Kim.
yeah.
Thanks for coming on. This was fun.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much,
I'm
Kim.
honored to
And
talk
is
to
there
you
anything
guys.
you want to plug?
So,
Where can we follow you on Instagram, Twitter, anything? What do you got?
Please follow me on Instagram. So it's just my name, KimKrizan, Kim Krizan. And my Patreon is The Magic Hour with Kim Krizan. I co wrote the Before Sunrise film series, and I was Marston's teacher, and now I know Brandon. So,
Yes. Thank you, Kim.
yes, I always look forward to hanging out with you because I know that I'm going to talk to someone who's not afraid to have a different opinion on the world. And, you have a lot of
hmm,
courage and a mind that I respect.
wow.
So I appreciate our
That's
friendship.
what I think about you. I think you have a lot of courage. Did you know that?
Wow.
Did I ever tell you that?
No, I didn't know that.
Oh,
Yeah, you've told me, but
uh,
it's still wonderful to hear.
I think you have a lot of courage and total originality. Brave.
Wow. So if you want to, thank you. If you want to follow Kim, I recommend you do. You can also find all her stuff at the bottom, the link in the YouTube bio.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much, you guys.